The primary reason for the SDR, would you think, would be something in the receiver or the transmitter that's the main advantage of SDR?
I mean, I would say the biggest thing would definitely be the receive for interference. I mean, you can see where the interference is coming from very easily, and do away with the interference coming in. And it's nice to be able to look up and down the band and see where any big signals are. So I would say that would be the primary, thing with it. And then the secondary thing is the audio quality of it, and the full control over the audio as far as seeing where, how far your audio is coming out, and being able to cut the audio off at whatever frequency that you want to. Over.
Roger, Roger. Now your display, would that be the term pan adapter?
Yeah, you can use the pan adapter. They've got about 7 different displays, but I would say the pan adapter and then the waterfall is about the most popular. And the pan adapter is probably the easiest to see everything. And then if you want to see if somebody's signal is splattering at all, the waterfall is a lot easier to see it, because any little small peaks that you may not notice on the pan adapter will show up pretty visibly on the waterfall. So, and you can run both of those at the same time, and that's what I'll do a lot of times, is have the pan adapter on top and then the waterfall underneath it, and and then let it run underneath it. And I guess the waterfall probably traps, I don't know, 7 or 8 seconds worth of audio in it before it rolls off the other end. K5IIA.
Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. Would you say the waterfall is like a zoom in of the pan adapter?
No, it's just a trying to think how to explain it. The more intense, it's like a radar. It actually is kind of like a radar. And the more intense the audio is, the darker of a color it might be, or even the lighter of a color. It just depends on how you set it up. And what it'll do, it kind of puts specs on it. And the more energy there, the more it'll be colored in. So you can see how wide the signal is by the coloration of it and how far the color comes out.
Roger, Roger. I've heard about SDRs for quite a while, and I've just I know they hook to the computer, but I never knew exactly how and why and all that, Roger.
Yep. Yeah, well, the older SDRs actually would use the sound card to do something. What is it? The audio bit rate of the sound card would determine, basically the horsepower of the SDR. And now they've got the ones that they call direct sampling, and everything is, pretty much in the SDR itself. I mean, it still relies on the computer to run the software and everything that does it, but it's not as reliant on the sound card for the performance of it. Over.
Roger, Roger. Now, is that a pretty steep learning curve as far as the operation of that SDR?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I would say probably no more than, a somewhat complex rig. I mean, you can pretty much, if you can get somebody to help you get set up, you can pretty much just, key it, talk, and unkey it, and, just learn the basic things of, changing frequency and adjusting the bandwidth and stuff, and then you could probably, learn from there. But I would say, after a couple of weeks of just looking at it, it'll all start making sense. I would say it's about like looking at your audio on an oscilloscope. When you first see it, it really doesn't make too much sense to you, but after you look at it for a while, you can see if the audio's flat topping, or you can see, if there's any background noise being picked up on oscilloscope. I would say it's about the same learning curve as that.
Roger, Roger. And so you can actually see your own signal as you transmit, and as a receiver would receive your audio.
Yeah. There's two different ways you can look at it, and one is, I guess you could say, how it should look, and then there's another option where you can actually, like you were saying, look at your audio as it's received on another, and on an attenuated input. So that there's one view of I guess how it's striving to look, and then there's another view of how it actually does come out with any distortion that's in the final amplifier.
So you can see in detail what you're actually transmitting, and then correct it. As far as the bandpass of the SDR, you can. What options do you have as far as setting the bandpass? Like my radio's 2.4, I guess. Does that have settings like that to widen the bandpass?
Yeah. You can adjust your audio from from super narrow to super wide, and some SDRs let you adjust it a little bit, some let you adjust it a lot, and this rig here is fully adjustable. I mean, I could actually make my signal 20 kC wide if I wanted to, and this one here is really what I liked about it. You can use this really as a piece of test equipment, and it'll pretty much do anything. Over.
Roger. Now that's the Apache 10E.
Yep. Yeah, the Apache Lab, and it's Alpha November 10 Echo, and I think it's rated for 10 or 15 watts of output.
Okay, so then you would just get a PA amp to tie into that and bring it up to wherever you wanted to?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did. They've got some populated boards on eBay that I think is one pretty good choice, and definitely a lot cheaper than buying the 100-watt version, because I want to say the 100-watt version is about $900 more than what this one is. And and that would be for 100 watts of output. And I bought they got a board on eBay that's got a pair of SD2933 50-volt MOSFETs that run in class AB, and they're good for, I want to say, 300 watts continuous output, and with the power supply, and I got all the different protection circuitry, and it's got a digital SWR and power meter on it, and all kind of over temperature shutdown, overdrive shutdown, SWR protection. I mean, it's got every bell and whistle that you could want on it, and I think I might have had maybe, I don't know, $400 in all the parts. K5IIA.
KC9VKV. So is it essentially like a black box that Ethernets into your computer, and then what's on the box itself?
It's got an 1/8" mic input, 1/8" headphone, and 1/8" CW key, and I think it's got 3 antenna outputs, and then just the 12 volts input for the power supply of it.
Roger. And the antennas, those for different bands?
Yeah, you can set it up in any way that you want. You can run 2 receivers at one time, and they can run off the same antenna or whatever antenna. Like I said, it's got 2 independent receivers, and then the third B and C connector on the back, it can be configured, wherever you want it at. So you could, and it'll save each band. and you could have a dedicated receive antenna for each band, a dedicated transmit antenna for each band, and it could be on, whatever orientation that you want on it.
Roger. And the display is actually on your PC. In other words, the box generates a display that's uses the PC display to show it, right?
Yeah, and what I didn't even realize that the computer had it when I bought it. I used to be into computers, and I lost interest in them over probably the last 6 or 7 years. But the computer that I bought, actually had a HDMI output. I didn't know it when I seen it back there. I had a 32-inch TV that I used to have in the living room years ago, and I had put it up when I'd bought a bigger one. So I've actually got a 32-inch TV hooked onto the computer with a HDMI cord that I use for the SDR display, and then I've got a regular 20-something-inch computer monitor that I've got hooked to the regular computer monitor plug on the back of the PC that I'll do my, QRZ page and stuff like that. So I've got the dual monitors on my computer, and I've got the big, nice flat screen TV for the SDR display, and then just a regular computer monitor to surf the net while I'm on the rig, or, if I'm not talking on the rig, I'll switch out, you can hit one button and it'll flip-flop the monitors, and I can surf the web on the big screen TV if I want to.
Roger. It's certainly flexible. Now, is any of that, if you when you hook your power amp up to this, do you have any RFI problems, or did you have any RFI problems on your PC?
No, I never had any problems here. I mean, it worked out great, and the nice thing about doing the virtual audio cable input instead of running the microphone straight to the rig is you don't have a DC connection with your audio straight to the rig to pick up any kind of ground loops or anything. You actually going through that USB cord into the computer and then piping the audio in digitally. You don't have that direct connection to pick up any hum and stuff like that. Over.
Roger. Now, you're talking about going into the through the 1/8-inch input on the box?
Yeah, you can go in through there, or they've got, I think, a 16-pin plug on the back that you can also go in with that.
Roger. And the mic that you're using right now, what kind of mic is that? And are you into the 1/8-inch input on that?
No, that's what I was saying. I'm using the USB adapter for the audio to go in, and it's a Electro-Voice RE20.
Sounds really nice, real nice. Just always been curious about the SDR, and what, if you don't mind asking, the price of that package?
Just the rig itself was $895 or maybe probably $980. It was just under $1,000, with shipping and everything.
And after it was all said and done, what do you figure you got in it now?
I guess with buying a brand new computer and the rig and then the 300-watt amplifier, I guess probably $1,700-$1,800.
Small price to pay, capability that you have there. And the operating system that they're running on is, 7, 10?
On 10.
Roger. All right, Brandon, I appreciate the info, man. I appreciate the time, Roger.
Oh, yep, no problem. But yeah, it's a fun little rig to play around with. It's kind of a bummer with the low output, but I just, I saw the amplifiers on the boards on eBay, and I knew I could stick that thing together, and it's kind of be nice to have a 100-watt rig all in one, but I'd rather have, the additional, I think the setup I've got here, minus the fact that it's in 2 pieces, that's the one negative thing, but take away that, I think I ended up with a better with a better setup than what I would have had with just a 100-watt rig. So I'm pretty happy with it. And as far as the distortion and stuff like that goes, it's really low at the levels that I'm running everything. So it works out pretty good.
Roger, what would you say your RF output now is?
I'm running 1,500 watts right now.
Roger, Roger. And you're New Orleans, is that correct?
About 35 miles northeast of New Orleans in Pearl River.
Roger. I tracked the accent pretty close, huh? Really appreciate the time there, and we'll say 3's down that way, and thanks for the info.
All right, bud, no problem. Have you a good evening.
Roger, this is KC9VKV. The name here, incidentally, is Jim, and we're just across from Louisville, Kentucky, on the Indiana side of the mighty Ohio River, right at Louisville.
Oh, okay, Jim, yeah, they were tracking some kind of flood stuff coming down. They said from all that rain that we had with that little thing that was trying to be a hurricane, they're expecting some pretty high crests on the rivers coming down. They were showing all the different ones and where they fed at down here, and it's supposed to have some pretty good flooding in the next couple of days down here.
Roger, that's from rain of the past couple of days, or is that correct?
That's how I took it. I don't believe I actually heard them directly say that, but that's just kind of what I was assuming.
Roger, because I'd heard some sections were going to get maybe 4 inches of rain today, so I don't know if that was that or something earlier.
Yeah, it hit us yesterday is when it really hit us. It's every bit of it is west of us today. I don't think we had any rain today, maybe early this morning, but as far as daylight hours went, I don't think we got any rain here. But man, I tell you, from Friday after work until really late, man, it had to have rained just about maybe 24 hours or even more straight. I don't know how many inches that we got. They were predicting in between 7 and 10 inches of rain. I don't know what we actually ended up getting, but they had some areas about 30 or 40 miles from me that had about 3 or 4 feet of water in their house. So it definitely got pretty bad, and they're expecting some more water to come down, like I said, down the different rivers that feed down here. So just have to see how it goes. I don't live in a flood area here, but they've got a lot of people that do, in pretty good proximity to me, so it's a mess, man.
Roger, Roger. Well, I think Mother Nature, we've come to expect certain things from Mother Nature, and that might not be the best thing to think about, because Mother Nature changes, evolves in different years and over a period of time and cycle, and that's why some places are deserts and some places are lush, and then 50 years or 100 years from now that all changes, and Mother Nature starts putting her water somewhere else, and these lush places might turn out to be deserts. And also weather patterns, might become more difficult than what it is. We think about a rain and then clear, but maybe the rains will be normally like 7 or 8 inches, which is real tough for any area to handle.
Yeah, it's a mess. I know that. I know they have a hard time with it in New Orleans, because it's basically built like a bowl, and every bit of water that comes in, they've got to pump it out. So it's like a constant fight there to keep the water pumped out of the city. I'm just glad that I don't live in there. I do a lot of work in New Orleans. I'd say probably 90% of our work is in New Orleans, but I definitely wouldn't care to live there, with knowing that, it's not a question of if, but just a question of when you're going to flood. I just really wouldn't want to have that hanging over my head. So I'm about a 40-minute ride outside of New Orleans, and I don't mind taking that ride every day, just to know that I've got a lot better chances of not catching a flood where I'm at BRANDON-K5IIA.
Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. Yeah, I can't think of anything more disheartening than to have a flood wipe out everything that you own, and particularly like for ham radio operators in specific, to lose all of your equipment overnight and be reduced to starting all over again. So I wish everybody down there all the luck in the world.
Yeah, it's a mess, man. I tell you, I don't like you said. I know a fire would be bad, but man, I seen them people that had gotten flooded, and they would have like 1 to 2 feet of mud in their whole house, and I couldn't imagine. It'd almost be better just to come back to it and not even have anything than to still have a shell of a house but have 2 foot of mud on the inside of it. I mean, it was just. It was horrendous what I saw after Hurricane Katrina, going around and looking at all of that stuff, man. It was unbelievable. We didn't have any water here, but what we had was trees knocked over, and it's heavily wooded out here where I live, and man, those pine trees were broke off like crazy, and big oak trees were just tipped over with all the roots sticking up in the air. I mean, it was unreal. I would say probably 90% of the light poles were knocked down out here, and I mean, I joke around about it now, but in this area, it actually kind of helped as far as radio goes, because the electrical system was so damaged out here. I want to say it took about 3 months to get electricity after Katrina, and everything was so messed up that it was actually easier to just put new poles up and run all new wire and all new transformers. So, all the stuff that we've got out here is either late '05 or early '06. Wiring and transformers, so I have very little electrical noise and very little hums or any kind of thing like that. So that one good thing that we did get out of it's brand new electrical wires and brand new transformers out here. K5IIA.
KC9VKV, and the poles were destroyed because of the hurricane winds. Roger.
Yeah, just, the winds and then trees falling over onto them and pulling them down. Yeah, just a combination of both.
Roger. Boy, yeah, it was something else, man. A lot of people expected that perhaps New Orleans would not come back from that, but I guess she has, and hopefully there's a better plan in place than what there was before as far as being able to deal with, heavy floodwaters.
Yeah. I tell you, man, just like, you said, there was a little while there, I was thinking myself that it may turn into an industrial, kind of a complex type of thing. It was really looking bad there for a while, and I honestly kind of could see them just leveling it and, keeping the river, docks and things like that, and kind of turning it into a, industrial area with maybe, oil refineries and things like that raised up, but they were able to rebuild everything. So and I tell you now, it's just getting now. I would say that you could really see very little remnants of the storm, but man, even 6 and 7 years later, you could still see a lot of leftover damage from the storm. But they've slowly taken over different properties that didn't ever get cleaned up and different things like that. And I'd say they've just about got it back to normal, or even better than what it was before. But and what was crazy, Mississippi actually got more water than Louisiana. When you go into the Mississippi state line on Interstate 10, they've got those overpasses, and I forget how tall those overpasses are. I want to say it's like 13-something feet or 14 foot to the bottom, the clear opening on those overpasses. and the water, the storm surge, when it came in, just at the Mississippi-Louisiana state line, and even further east into Mississippi, the water actually got up above the, crossovers on the interstate, and when the water settled, it actually left a water line on the side of those bridges that go over the interstate. So, I mean, it was, 7 or 8 foot higher than that during the storm itself. But when the water kind of crested and sat there for a little while, it was a good 14 or more feet above the interstate, and it sat there long enough to leave a water line before it receded back down. So it was real bad in Mississippi, but New Orleans kind of got most of the, news coverage. K5IIA.
Kilo Charlie 9 Victor Kilo Victor. So that at the height, the surge was 17 feet?
Yeah, there's no telling, man. I don't know what the confirmed number of it was, but it engulfed the bridges going over the top of the interstate, just to kind of give you a visual. And I would say where that happened at was probably 15 or 20 miles inland from the Gulf.
Boy, oh boy. That probably, well, obviously never happened on record anywhere, to that point. So that kind of flooding and water is so far only been documented once. So hopefully maybe that's every 2,000-year occurrence, or maybe never, hopefully.
Yeah, I think they call it a 100-year flood, I think is the way they worded it. But, the crazy thing is, I mean, to me, you just as likely to have it the next year as you did the year it happened. I mean, we've been really fortunate ever since Katrina to not really have a major storm hit us. And it's really just had a lot to do with the way that the Gulf streams or whatever's been blowing. It's just been, the way the air currents have been flowing the last few years has really kind of taken the hurricanes and blown them up the East Coast. But I'm sure it'll turn back around again and be more, not as resistant to the hurricanes.
Roger, I was just recalling, I guess about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I worked a station down in New Orleans, and the guy's radio room was up 20 feet. He used the bottom half of it for parking, I guess, and his house was up 20 feet, and his radio room was in back of the house, and it was up 20 feet. So I guess he was anticipating perhaps another recurrence of that.
Yeah, well, what was so bad, man? The flood insurance went up so high that a lot of people couldn't even afford to pay, just for the flood insurance, and they had to have it. So it was actually cheaper to jack the house up, to save on the flood insurance. And some of them they were actually even uninsurable unless they jacked it up. So there must have been 7 or 8 companies popped up, that would do the house elevation stuff, because there was a lot of people was getting FEMA grants to raise their house. So yeah, there's a lot of people that's living on stilts now that used to not.
Roger, and perhaps that is the answer to the question, but on the other hand, hopefully it never happens, and they never have to check out the viability of a construction height increase like that, and if it actually works. And because if you have surge waters with any velocity, there get run across buildings like that, could still take them out.
Yeah, and that's what's so bad about a storm surge. A lot of people kind of look at it almost like a tsunami wave or something coming in, but that's not how it is. It's just like a normal beach, but with more intensity, and it just comes up slowly, so it's just steadily beating. It's just picking up more and more trash, and it'll hit you and then suck back in and hit you and suck back in, and and it may only go up a foot in an hour, or it may go up faster than that, but it's that beating action and just constantly picking up more trash and hitting the house again that even if I was really high in the air on those stilts, I still wouldn't want to stay for anything like that, because I couldn't imagine, sitting up there and having to feel the whole house shake every time, a car or something else that it picks up starts running into it. So yeah, it's still going to knock them over, I would guess, pretty good.
Yeah, Roger, when water moves like that, it picks up all kinds of debris and uses that to push against other things, so it's not just the water itself, but the things that the water is pushing along that can really raise havoc with any kind of structure that's in its path. Anyway, Brandon, I appreciate the QSO, sir. It's been interesting, and thanks for the information on the SDR. Roger, Roger.
No, all right, bud. Sounds good. Yeah, they had a friend of mine that stayed for it in a 3-story apartment complex, and he was actually sleeping, had fell asleep, and he woke up. He thought somebody was knocking on the door, and when he woke up, when he put his feet down, there was water in the apartment, and that's what it was them waves hitting the door of his apartment, and he had to get up to the 2nd floor, and he rode the storm out like that. And I think he sat there, he said a day, and the water was still up, and he actually had to jump out the 2nd-story window into the water, and I guess he swam for maybe 2 miles until he seen somebody, and they picked him up. So yeah, it was something else, man. It was definitely unexpected as far as that amount of damage and everything, but at least next time they'll have a better handle on how to deal with it and things like that, and a lot more people are more ready for it, so hopefully it'll be all right. But yep, really enjoyed it, and have a good evening, and good to talk with you. This is K5IIA.
Roger, Roger, Brendan. 3 is that away, and have a good night. Catch you later. This is Kilo Charlie 9 Victor, Kilo Victor. We'll be clear.